So thank you everyone for showing up. Really appreciate you coming to this webinar. And the title of this webinar today is Using Agritecture Designer to Plan Your Urban Farming Business. So what we're going to go over is basically the A to Z of Agritecture Designer. I'm going to show you every facet of that platform, all the way from the beginning of the journey till the end of having your vertical farm plan complete and ready to go. So without further ado, let's hop into it. So what I'm going to first do is show you what happens as soon as you arrive at our website, design.agritecture.com. You're going to see a homepage like this, and you're going to sign up with a new account. So I'm going to show you how it goes if you sign up from the very beginning. So let's do a test account and go ahead and let Google Chrome suggest me a password. And I'll register for a new account. Now, as soon as I register, the first thing I'm going to see is the dashboard. And on the dashboard, it's basically a roadmap for you to plan your urban farming business, right? So the first thing it's going to ask you to do is define a vision for your project. So you can click on this button, and what it's going to do is come up with a survey asking you about a few questions to get an idea of kind of your role, your project, your goals, your ideas of how you want to start an urban farming business. So for example, let's say I'm a farmer or a landowner. I want to go for profit and education. Those are my goals. And it's going to ask you several other questions about your property, about what you're interested in, about how much farming experience you have, what budget range you want to work in, what area you'd like to work in, and what crops you'd like, and also how you plan to sell those crops. So, and I'll also put that my farm location will be in Brooklyn, NY, since that's where I am, and I'll see results. Now, what's going to happen is in the back end, we're going to go through our database of 500 farms, and we're going to calculate which farms are the closest to you or the most relevant to you in order to inspire you and to show you what's out there, what's already working, and how you can get closer to those dreams. So for example, we have here Brick Street Farms in St. Petersburg, Florida. If I wanted to check out a little bit more about this, I could click here to see the farm website or here for an additional article about them. There's one in Belgium that it's telling me to look at, and there's one in Lakewood, Colorado as well. So we really encourage everyone to look through that inspiration tab. But now I'm going to go ahead and log back into my own account, and I'm going to show you all of the features that Agritecture Designer has to offer. And please throw your questions in the Q&A as we go, and I'll pick them up. I'll pause for questions as we go. So the first section I want to show you within Agritecture Designer is the Education tab. And what you're going to see here is a commercial urban farming course taught by our very own Agritecture employees. And you'll see that there's even a course taught by Henry Gordon Smith, our founder. And these courses are just on various topics related to starting an urban farm and understanding the business side of an urban farm. David Caesar, our agronomist, teaches a great course about understanding your market and choosing crops. Would really encourage everyone who uses Agritecture Designer to look through this lesson and get as much value as you can from that. Now, the next thing I want to show you, which is the bread and butter of Agritecture Designer, is our project feasibility tool or our farm modeling tool. And what this is going to let you do is create a project and build out your own farm model. All right, so let's call this one Sky Strawberries. I'm trying to create in Brooklyn, New York, a strawberry farm that's going to outshine all the other strawberries that you've ever tasted in your life. So let's make it a greenhouse. I'm going to select rooftop greenhouse as well. Here you can change your currency or units, but since we're in the US, I'm going to keep them standard. The site area, how will you obtain it? Okay, I'm renting it for 20,000 per year, and the site area is 15,000 square feet. And now it's going to ask you a few questions as well about the site area allocation. So do you want a head house or a place to process? And in this case, I do. And do I want to leave some area for circulation as well? Now, some of these buttons or questions might confuse you a little bit. You can always just hover over these tooltips, which will give you helpful advice on answering these questions, as your scenario demands. And then here's the most exciting part. You can choose your crops, right? So you can choose from all these different crops that we have. In this case, I'm going to choose strawberries. It's going to give me all of the grow systems that work for strawberries in greenhouse. And in this case, let's set up an ebb and flow system. And I only want to grow strawberries, so I'm going to put 100% of my production area into that. And I like organic produce, so I'm going to go ahead and check that off. Now for the insulation level, I'm going to check heavy duty. It's Brooklyn, so we're going to need heating. We're probably going to need some lighting. I'm not going to act as the head grower, so I'm going to have to fork over a 78K salary. This is a default populated by our backend, but you can always update this. But if I'm paying that high salary, this head grower better be experienced. And then we can also edit things like our labor rate, what method of funding, and then overrides for things like water cost, electricity cost, and other defaults. And when you click see results, it's going to go to the back end and take all of these inputs that you've put in and come up with this, your farm model. So this farm model is going to show you all the different things about your farm, all the different facets, all the financial breakdown of your farm. So here you have a 10-year operating summary, which is going to show you things like the revenue, the profit margin. And then if you click on this CapEx breakout tab, you're going to see what I find to be one of the most interesting parts of Agritecture Designer. And that's going to show you how much you have to invest in the various facets of your system in order to get your farm up and running. And as we know, it can be quite an expensive undertaking. So, and you can also click this little down arrow here. You see any of these sections has these down arrows, and these are what we call advanced mode. This is going to allow any user to come in here who has more information. So for example, let's say I already went to NGS, a retailer of grow systems, and I got a quote from them. And they said, Nadim, we can do this for $7 per square foot. So I'm going to put that number in instead and hit calculate, and you'll see that the changes will be reflected both in the table and in the chart. I could change my lighting. I could say, okay, I actually got a quote, and in Brooklyn, New York, they're a little bit more expensive. It's going to be $160 per fixture. Okay, that updates right away. And for any of these sections, you can really come in here with additional information and change and update your quotes and update your project in order to make it the most realistic to your scenario as possible. So that's what we call advanced mode. We also have the OpEx breakout tab, which similarly has advanced mode for some things. So let's say, I'm in Brooklyn, New York, Con Ed, really high prices. They charge me 22 cents per kilowatt hour. I don't like it, but I gotta pay. Same with the water, I can change that. I can change the number of laborers. And this will just give me an idea of the running costs of my farm every year for the first 15 years of operation here, which is what we modeled. And then here, it's going to give you an annual summary, which is basically a full financial modeling projection of your farm. So it's going to go from year 1 to 15. You're going to see things like the yield for each crop. You're going to see the wastage percentage, which goes down over time. You're going to see things like COGS, OPEX, EBITDA, and all the way down to profit. Now, at the top of this, you're also going to see a payback period. And you can see right here that my farm is not very profitable right now. Even in 15 years, it's still not going to pay back my initial investment. Why is that? Maybe it has something to do with the fact that we're selling strawberries for $3.50 per pound, which is pretty low. So let's go ahead and edit this price. And as you see here, we have 3 choices: default, calculated, and custom. Now, for now, we can go ahead and put a custom price of whatever we want, $7.25 per pound. Why not? And we're going to see that my payback period is still 15 years. So I might have to make a few tweaks to this farm. But what I do want to show you is that there's also another way to come to this crop price, which is a calculated price. And we're going to have to go to the crop pricing tool for that. But before we do that, I'm going to pause for a little bit because I do see some questions coming in, and I'd like to answer them. So the first question here from Liam: when modeling, when I choose my square footage, does that take into account other areas of the business, like office space, machine room, etc., or is it just taking into account the grow space? And I think I can click this, and you might see the question come up. But yes, basically, what it does take into account things like having a head house, having circulation in the greenhouse. So in a way, it will take care of this. However, if you have office space or a space that's not strictly related to the farming of your project, then no, it will not account for that. Second question from Thijs. How is the yield calculated? Does it take into account the lights? So yes, the yield is calculated using an advanced model that's created by our agronomist, David Caesar, and it takes into account lights. So for our greenhouse model, it's gonna determine whether or not, based on whether you clicked supplemental lighting or not. If you didn't, and there's not enough light, then the growth of your crops is gonna slow down. However, if you have supplemental lighting, it's gonna calculate exactly how much lighting you need and give you the right amount of lights. Now, if you have a vertical farm model, it's gonna go straight to the calculation of how much lights you need, and it's gonna put that in the CapEx breakout here under the lighting section. So in this case, it's telling me I need 387 light fixtures, and it's gonna give me some details about these light fixtures as well. Another question from Thijs. How is this technology defined per greenhouse project? I'm not sure I fully understand this question, Thijs, so if you can just clarify, that would be great. And then we have another question from Adam. How about estimates on soft costs for architectural services or hard costs for construction? Yes, so that's a great question. And as you might notice here at the bottom of our CapEx breakout, we have two sections, one for structures, and this is going to encompass anything like the light duty, medium duty, or heavy duty structure of the greenhouse itself, which can be quite pricey, especially if you click heavy duty. And then there's also a construction cost, which is going to take into account the labor rates in your area. So yes, long story short, we can definitely help you estimate your construction and structure costs. So that's all the questions in the Q&A right now, but please feel free to throw more in. Really like answering your questions so that you can know whether this tool suits you and exactly how it works. So please keep those coming. Great questions so far. And Thijs, if you want to elaborate or on your question, I'll be looking out for it in the Q&A. Now, as I said, we chose this price, $7.25 per pound of strawberries. I just threw it in there at random. But what if I want to actually get an idea of what price I should pay for, or I should be selling my strawberries at? I'm going to go to the crop pricing tool, and I'm going to select a strawberry here. And I'm going to add crop. Now, what am I going to do here? I'm going to ask you, the user, to go out into the real world and find strawberries and taste these strawberries and buy them and see what their price is and see how delicious they are, and basically put in all that data into here. Because once you put in real world data, then we have something to work with and we can suggest a recommended price for you. So for example, let's say we went out into the grocery store and we found them selling 200 Gs of strawberries for $6. And we tried them and they were average. They came in a clamshell, and we recorded this at the supermarket, and the supermarket was selling this for retail price. There were no labels with this organic, local, or pesticide free. Good. Now we go into the second product evaluation. We went to a farmer's market and we found for 250 G, we would pay $7. It came in a plastic bag. It was very delicious. And we recorded it at a farmer's market. It was an organic, local, pesticide-free farmer's market. And then the third strawberry we tried is, let's say, an omakase strawberry from one of those fancy strawberry farms that you see nowadays. It was $15 for 100 G, but it was extremely high quality, 5, and it came with no packaging, direct to consumer, and it was all of these things. So then once I'm done with all three product evaluations, I'm going to select the unit that I want to sell in, and let's say I want to sell it in a 4-ounce unit, and I'm going to sell it at a farmer's market. I'm going to hit calculate here, and it's going to tell me, Nadim, you can sell these strawberries at $8.07 per 4-ounce container. And that's a lot better than the $7 that I put in per pound. So if I click continue here as well, it's going to ask me to select a project. I want this price for my Sky Strawberries project, so I'm going to add it and submit. Now when I go back to my projects tab, and you're going to see all the projects here, I can actually click on Sky Strawberries, click on edit crop price, and if I click on calculated here, I'm going to see this new price. and I'm going to save changes. So now it's saved that new price that we both came together and actually went out into the real world and looked at prices. Now, granted, I came up with the prices on the spot, but if you actually go out into the real world and do this yourself, you're going to see that the crop pricing is going to get a lot more accurate. So that's one tip on how to use AD to get the most accurate results. And what you'll see as a theme in AD in general is that we let the user edit anything. So we're really trying to build a powerful tool to allow you to take advantage of all your knowledge that you've accumulated in the urban farming space, so that you can put in data that's absolutely relevant to your scenario. Now, there's just two small features that I want to discuss before I go back to some Q&A. One of them is the export to Excel feature. This is a feature we added recently, and you'll see that as soon as you click this, it pops up with a little download. And if I open up the Excel model, you'll see that pretty much all the stuff that we just went over in the project detail page is here as well, including the CapEx breakout. And as you can see here, the equations are already built in. So if I change anything, it'll be reflected right away. So this is just to help you. We know we have people who have their much larger, complex financial models already in Excel. So if you're one of those people, you can just download to Excel and you can plug it right into your model. And then the last thing I also want to show you is a feature here from the main projects tab called compare multiple projects. And if I can click two of them, I can see a lot of the different categories, what we're spending in CapEx, what we're spending in OpEx every year, the max annual revenue, and just compare these two farms against one another. So really, when it comes to creating your own projects and your own farm models, we really encourage you to create multiple so that you can make use of that compare feature. And then there's a few small things I just want to touch on before we get to the Q&A and before I let Emiliano take the floor. Those last few things, one of them is partners. Over our 10 years of experience in the industry, Agritecture has built up a partner network, which has both financing and equipment partners. So what does that mean? You can go to any of these partners and request funding from them. And you can see what regions they serve, what amount of capital they like to work with, and the target payback period as well. So if you're really on that last step where you have everything ready, you're sure that your business plan is going to work, you just need some of that cash, come to the financing partners and you can get good deals with them. And then with the equipment partners, if you're not sure yet what type of equipment you want to use, and you're doing your research and you find that Ceres has great greenhouses, for example, for the Sky Strawberries project, then you can come onto here and you can contact them. You can give them your Agritecture Designer project, and they'll already know a lot about you just from that project. So you'll be a qualified lead, and it'll be much easier for them to create a quote for you. And on top of that, we also have discounts with many of these equipment partners, which can help you, which can come out to quite a significant amount when there's a lot of capital involved. And then lastly, I just want to show you the advisor tab, and this is regarding one of the bundles that we recently opened. We find that some people kind of need some more guided, guidance from an agritecture advisor to help them through the whole process of actually building their vertical farm or their urban farm. And that's for people who are very serious about it. They're on that last step. They just want to make it over the finish line. And we help you push your project over the finish line and get you to your urban farming dreams. So thank you so much for listening. I see that there are some questions in the Q&A, but I'm actually going to pause for a second first, and I'll answer these after. But first, I want to hear from Emiliano, who is actually an AD user who we found. He found us. He came onto this platform, and him and his company Raiz actually used this platform to help them. So please, Emiliano, take the floor, and I'd like to hear from you how you and your company actually use this platform to build your vertical farm or your urban farm.
Cheers, and thank you for the introduction and for the chance of being here. I think several points, right? Getting to know Agritecture from the start, I think opened plenty of doors, but also plenty of knowledge for me and the team. Got the chance to have a visit in New York, like where I got to know Agritecture and vertical farming in itself, with Sky Vegetables, and really, enjoy and saw how much value they could bring to the table. And then when you just launched Designer back in 2020, we were starting to get into it, so it really clarified the first education part. I think it would really it's worth putting attention and going in depth in that, as it gives you a wide overview of what you need. So starting as an entrepreneur, you have to build a team as well. So you go all the way from crop science, marketing, finance, so how to structure your business as well. So that was a good tool and something to have. And then of course, as you mentioned on the feasibility tool, right? So how to do a feasibility analysis? Yeah, you can go there. You can try different spaces in the world, right? So do different iterations. I think that's worth it as well. So we're starting in Lisbon, but also of course did models for other cities in different locations in different ways, like all the way from renting a place or buying a place, and also exploring different crops and business models. So I think that's a really good tool for those who both are starting or are already a bit inside. That just really lets you structure it. And I think, as you mentioned as well, it gives you, even if you're developing like an Excel model on the back, or you're using this as a foundation to a wider plan, it really gives you quite solid foundations, right? Then again, I think there was some questions on the team side, right? Or commenting on that, and I think it's very valuable too, right? That I wouldn't discard the help all the way from making key intros to people in the ecosystem, right? Because it's so small but rising and expanding ecosystem, so you can there's a lot of opportunities, but having key insight and introductions from the team, I think from all the way from the start, that's super valuable. Then once we started growing in the test chamber in Lisbon, we had our first products. Henry also came visit. So that was great, having different perspectives, good experiences, good awarenesses. And then right now the team as well, with how we've developed now. I don't know if I should go into that, or should we cater a bit more to how we've been using the platform, or if you have any more specific questions, Nadim.
Yeah, I think the question I want to hear about is just tell us a bit more about Raiz and where you're at with it now.
Cheers. Yeah. So after all this, let's say this was late 2020, 21, early 21, when I started using the software. So it was, as mentioned, a solid foundation to put together the team, to decide what was going to be our approach. And we came up with a concept of transforming spaces, and we're starting with a container. We're doing a double-decker container, focusing as well, like with supplementary LEDs and natural sunlight. And right now, I think Lucia, my co-founder, will share some information as well. But we're just we finalized the design last couple of months. We're this week, actually, it's a good coincidence, closing the crowdfunding campaign to start building February, March this year. So I'm really excited to get growing. We did our first tests last year, like with restaurants, community, had great feedback, and really just fine-tuned our approach. And yes, so really looking to finalize this, get things going, grow, build our first concept farm, right? And take it from there. Of course, starting local, but thinking more widely, initially in Southern Europe, like where the weather allows us to maximize this concept, and really diminish our OPEX, and explore new crops, etc. Then it's expanding potentially to Latin America, the Middle East, etc. No, but for now, we're really excited of getting growing in Lisbon, and yes, really appreciate the outlet and all the team's support as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're so glad to hear it, Emiliano. It looks like you guys are really on the right track. For anyone who's interested in checking out more about Raiz, please look at the chat. Ricky and Lucia have added some links there to their Indiegogo campaign. And good luck, guys. We really are pulling for you for this campaign, and we hope to see your facility very soon.
Forza, thank you, thank you. No, I appreciate it, and this is great. All these interactions and sharing more and creating synergies, right? So I think just encouraging the audience as well, like this or acquiring or subscribing to Designer. Of course, it's a super valuable tool, but it also opens a lot of doors with agriculture and gives you a huge perspective and I think a competitive advantage with all the products that are out there. So really encourage you guys and thank you, Nadim.
Thanks, Emiliano.
Cheers.
So yeah, as Emiliano said, and as is really our hope, we hope that we can really help entrepreneurs and open a lot of doors for them and basically get them to where they want to go in the urban farming space. So going back to the Q&A now, I see a few questions have been flowing in, so I'll try to answer as many as I can. A question from Kwesi: is the crop pricing tool based on global averages or prices in the farm's geographical region? So this is a great question. Now, for the crop pricing tool itself, it's actually based on the prices that you, the user, input. So it depends. If you go around to supermarkets in your area, then it's going to be based on that. If you go to the farmers markets or boutique grocers or direct to consumer, then it's going to be based off that. However, the general tool is all based on industry averages. So for example, any CapEx or OpEx item that we estimate is going to be based on what we see all around the industry, right? And it's going to be, we're going to try to get it more specific to your scenario in two ways. One of them is, as soon as you put in a project location, we go back to our database and we check and we input the water cost and the electricity cost and the gas cost and all those types of costs, labor, from your location. So we do try to, cater to specific locations as well. And other parts of our tool are general and more industry average. So hopefully that answers your question. We have a question from Tice here. I assume this is an elaboration on the previous question that he asked. In greenhouses, different technology can be applied. Amount of screening, amount of ventilation per greenhouse, different type of glass, diffuse or not, heat pump or gas heating. Also, when working with greenhouses in hot and humid climates, additional cooling needs to be installed. Is there any climate simulation been done to assess which technology needs to be in the greenhouse? Great question, Thais, and my answer is absolutely. So our greenhouse model was developed by our agronomist, David Caesar, plus our consultant, Alberto. And they're both very, very knowledgeable when it comes to growing crops in different climate conditions and in greenhouses. So if you take a look at our greenhouse model, what it actually does is it downloads all the weather data for your area that you put in. And it compares that weather data versus the ideal weather data for your crops. And it tries to get the weather to be as close to ideal for your crops as possible within the constraints of the greenhouse system that you've selected. But yes, it definitely does evaporative cooling and ventilation and HVAC. All that stuff can be included in the model depending on the inputs that you select in the project input page. I really encourage you to go on the platform and experiment, Thais, because it seems like you're in that range where you're ready to experiment. Okay, another question from Abdus Salam. He asks, do your models have estimations for labor, construction, etc., for countries in Africa, for example, Nigeria? Yes, we do. So our database actually includes estimates on labor and construction from all over the world. However, if you find that it's not that accurate, you can always go in to advanced mode or to the edit project section, and you can change some of those default values. So for example, if I go to edit here and I scroll down, I can actually change the farm worker labor rate. And there are some other things that you can also toggle in the back to help you with that. Next question from Liam. With pricing, does it calculate retail price or your sale price? Does it have estimates for margins, for example? So it calculates the price that we recommend that you sell it at based on whatever outlet you've given us in the crop pricing tool. So for example, if I go back here and I click here, you can see that I've selected direct to consumer here. However, if I wanted to sell it as a distributor, then I would click like this. And if I clicked on distributor wholesaler, then it would give me the price that I should sell it to supermarkets at. Right, so if I calculate it, it's going to go down. And then if I click on direct to consumer, it's probably going to be among the highest prices. If I click farmers market, maybe at a slight discount. So it's really up to you and how you select to measure those crops and to sell those crops. So that takes care of that. Another question from Thijs. This question's for you, Emiliano. How was your experience with the investments results that came from the AD software compared to real life?
I think the investments were, to be honest, when we started, it was different systems, so they did vary a bit. So you should always consider some range of change, right? I think as mentioned, you have different scenarios, or we had different scenarios and different types of farms, which in the end, some of them were more accurate than others, right? But I would say it's always account for some degree of change, both positive and negative, right? But so, for example, here in Portugal, you can get some cheaper clean energy, but we decided to use systems that were in Germany, unless than other that were higher priced. So it's always an approach, right? And you should also like go deeper into them, but it really gives you the clarity on how to structure all the costs. And I think, for example, on that side, the breakout of the capex and everything, that's really what you should take and learn. Like, okay, if proportionally, I think it's very accurate, right? So how you spread out your costs, so that should help you identify red flags. If someone's pricing you more for one thing, you identify like what is the percentage of the capex breaker that it actually should be, right? Or how you can look at it. So it gives you the solid foundation to develop a nice financial plan yourself.
That's great. Thanks, Emiliano. And another question for you. Niall is saying, I will be in Lisbon in May. Is Raiz open to visit?
Nice. Yeah, please do. I think, I don't know if this is still there, if you can share the Instagram or something, but we will share more information there when we launch, and we'll be open for visits, of course. Gotta coordinate, but will be great. I think by May, we most likely will have something to show.
Awesome. So yeah, Niall, you see Lucia just put the Instagram link there in the chat. So please go ahead and visit, and you can coordinate from there. Another question from Liam. In terms of vertical farm modeling, does the system just model one type of system, such as vertical racks? Can you customize if you had different ideas for growing systems and just input the yield per square foot or for the total grow area, for instance? So to answer that one, that's a bit of a two-part question. Let's go into the vertical farm project edit or project creation page. And what you can see here is you can customize the grow system for different areas. So for example, for spring onions, you can choose between ebb and flow and aeroponic, and you can choose your fraction of the bed space. For strawberries, you can choose NFT, ebb and flow, or aeroponic. For thyme, only ebb and flow is available. So we really update this drop down with what we think is the most applicable for that crop, right? So let's say we also want to grow something like microgreens. We'll have 4 options: NFT, ebb and flow, deep water, or aeroponic. So yes, in that sense, you can definitely customize and play around with your grow systems. However, we don't yet have the capability to input the yield per square foot. However, you'll see in the project annual summary page that you can see the annual yield here for each crop and for the total. So if it's not totally accurate, or you know exactly what your yield is going to be, you can always do the export to Excel and just change a few numbers in there and see how the Excel model changes. And then last question here from Abdus Salam. Are you able to shed more light on the range of equipment partners you work with? Absolutely. So I would love to go over our equipment partners here. And some of them service more greenhouse systems. Some of them are more for vertical farming systems. Some of them are turnkey, where they will provide you the whole system, everything included, and you don't have to worry about anything. Some of them are more, limited in range, where they just will sell you the grow system and you can integrate that with the rest of your farm. Ceres, for example, they do amazing greenhouses. Montel does turnkey systems that are very highly automated. They really specialize in vertical farming. Urban Crop Solutions offers a lot of solutions for vertical farming as well, and they can both be plug and play, or they can be turnkey as well. But if you want to read more about any of our partners, please just go ahead and visit their websites. You can check them out on our partners page. You can send them an email. You can speak with them. You can request. You can ask us about them in more specificity, and we'd be happy to provide more information about that. But long story short, all of these partners are people or are companies that we have vetted. We've gone and we've done the background work. We've done the due diligence. We've done the homework for you. And we can reliably say these are equipment providers that you would want to work with. They're going to give you good prices. They're going to give you high quality materials. And if you work with Agritecture Designer, we can even give you a discount on their products. So yeah, that's about the equipment partners. Now that was the last question. So last call here. If anyone has any more questions, please get them in now. Otherwise, I think we'll be wrapping up quite soon. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this Agritecture Designer webinar. It's really our pleasure to show you around this platform, and we hope that we'll see you all on the platform soon. We do have one more question come in here from John. Can you speak to your financing partners? Yes, absolutely. As soon as you choose a financing partner that you'd like to speak with, you just let them know. You let us know, we set it up, and you can get on a call with them directly before making any commitments or anything, just so you get to know each other better. I mean, we're not going to do this stuff behind a concrete barrier. You know, we definitely want you to have full transparency into the process in order to make sure that you're comfortable getting that financing. And so the last thing I wanted to show you guys is that the several options you have for getting Agritecture Designer. So if you sign up right away, you'll be able to have the vision survey and the inspiration tab that I showed to kind of get you thinking about urban farming. If you're still not sure whether you want to make the full jump, we have the Sprout bundle, which will allow you to view the urban farming course. That course is taught by Henry and the rest of the agriculture staff. Very highly recommended. But if you're ready for the full package, all the vertical farm modeling and the crop pricing and all that stuff, please check out the starter bundle. That's going to give you 90 days access to all the tools in Agritecture Designer. And then the advisor bundle, we find that some people want some additional guidance throughout these steps. And these are for the most serious users who are actually ready to build vertical farms and who really want to work their way towards their dreams. This is really going to open a lot of doors for you. And there's a very good value on this since we just opened it now. You pay $4.99 up front, the same price as the starter bundle for double the access period. And then as you go along, you can schedule calls with Agritecture advisors, and you're only going to be charged after your second, fourth, and sixth call, and you can cancel anytime. So we really recommend you to check out this advisor bundle. And as Ricky has said in the chat, we are offering a 10% discount for anyone who viewed this webinar for any of these plans. And all you have to do is use this code JAN2022WEB. Just check inside the chat for that code, and please feel free to use it for any of these plans. And with that, I think I'm going to draw this webinar to a close. We have one last question from Thais. He slipped it in right at the end. Do you calculate local prices of fertilizers or running costs? Yes, so we have fertilizer costs and seed costs and all those running costs, operational expenses are all in the database, and they're all baked into the backend calculations. And you can trust that our agronomists have done a good job at modeling that stuff. So thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, Emiliano, for coming on. Really, it was awesome hearing your point of view and hearing how AD was able to help you.
Appreciate it.
And we really hope to see everyone on the platform. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.